Jamar Chase would have been my number one receiver last year. Devontae Smith would have been in that conversation over Jerry Jeudy. What we don't have this year is that next wave. We don't have a Justin Jefferson. We don't necessarily have even – I wasn't a huge fan of where Jalen Reagor went, but Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, players like that who came up the board in round 2 and were very, very good as rookies could have easily been first-round picks. So this year, there is more of that drop-off. There's the big three, just like last year. They will probably all three be top 15 picks, but then there is a pretty significant drop-off, which does make it surprising that we've seen, Kenny Galladay's hanging out there, Juju Smith-Schuster's still there, that we haven't seen those guys come off the board just yet.
But isn't guys like Bateman the next wave, right? Guys who opted out last year that we couldn't project and see their growth. Players have tremendous growth and develop and improve by leaps and bounds when they have a season. A lot of guys opted out that would have gone into this year with high expectations and be able to really show it. So I think, this is teams really leaning on top of their scouting department saying, hey, man, who can we steal that nobody may know about because we've done our due diligence or because we have area scouts in that area that's been on these guys for a long time.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, Michael Thomas, second-round pick out of Ohio State. A.J. Brown, second-round pick out of Ole Miss. And they are two of the brighter young wide receivers in the game. So I also think that there's a movement in the NFL right now, like you guys were saying, similar to the running back position of how valuable is a wide receiver. Do you take a wide receiver in the top 10? Because we can go back to the last 10 years of wide receivers being drafted in the top 10. If your name's not Julio Jones and A.J. Green, and that was 11 years ago, there haven't been that many hits as far as early round picks at the wide receiver position. So I do think teams are also seeing it as this is a very expensive position. If we can build out a wide receiver room with second, third, fourth round picks instead of first round pick, you now have a cheaper roster. You can spend some of that money elsewhere when you're able to find Hunter Renfrow in the 5th round, and you're able to find sleepers, like Tim Patrick with the Broncos. You can find players that can be very good in your scheme and find that fit where Jamar Chase is a great player, but you don't have to draft him at 3 to have a good wide receiver room. You can draft someone in the 2nd round. DK Metcalf was the 64th pick in the draft. You can wait and find good receivers.
Matt Miller, ESPN NFL draft analyst and founder of the Draft Scout, joining us here on ESPN Radio. Bart and Hahn. Michael Lee's in for Alan Hahn today. But, Matt, let me ask you this, though, and you brought up the history, and that is a good point in terms of the value you can put on certain positions. But the way the league has evolved, even over the last 5 years in terms of the added value now on the quarterback position, right? So you got to have a good quarterback. So you got to have a good offensive line. Opposing teams got to have a good defensive line to sort of get pressure on that quarterback. But if the quarterback doesn't have anybody to throw to, what does it matter if he's protected or not? So based on how the league has evolved, doesn't that add even more value to that wide receiver position as it relates to the draft in 2021?
You would think so, but it's working opposite of that. I think because also now teams know that they need 4 good wide receivers. It's not like it used to be where you need a wide receiver 1, and then you can kind of limp by with a couple other guys. You need 3 or 4 of these players now. So I think that's why we do see a little bit of a change in value of, hey, I have to build out a room of these players. I need 4 on the field and a pass-catching tight end, or I need 3, a tight end and a back who can catch. So I think that is why we're seeing the value spread out more. And like last year, I was one of the people last year, this time of year, saying we have 3 wide receivers who should all be top 10 picks. Henry Ruggs was the 12th pick. Jerry Jeudy was the 15th. CeeDee Lamb was 18th. So we didn't see that run on those guys. And I think, Jamar Chase might be the exception because he's like a sawed-off Julio Jones at 6 foot tall, 208 pounds. But, Devontae Smith's 175 pounds. Bart would have killed him if he went over the middle.
Night-night. We call that night-night sauce.
Right? They can't. 175 pounds, that's Marvin Harrison. Who else has been 6 foot, 6'1", 175 pounds? There's not a precedent for a player of that size having success in the NFL. I'm not saying Devontae Smith won't have success, but the draft is about calculating your risk. So you look at precedents. Is there a precedent for a player like this having success if drafted this early? And I think that will hurt Devontae Smith. It will hurt Jalen Waddle that he had an injury this year and really never had that superstar year of production. It's good news for the teams like the Giants at 11, who could be looking at a wide receiver. Could be good news for the Patriots at 15 if they don't trade up to get a quarterback. So if you're not in the top 10, okay, you're not getting Kyle Pitts, you're not getting Jamar Chase, you can still get a good receiver because it's just not seen as a premium position like you're saying. Quarterback, left tackle, pass rusher. Those are going to go early. Wide receiver, it's getting moved down the list a little bit.
Well, speaking of the highest paid athletes in all the sports, the quarterback position, when you look at this field, we know we're talking about Russell Wilson. We're talking about Deshaun Watson potentially being moved, we know if a team is going to move off of those players, it's because they see something in one of these other quarterbacks not named Trevor Lawrence. Can you explain to me the difference between Trey Lance and Zach Wilson as far as what they are potentially capable to do at the next level?
Yeah, they're both similar in that they're able to move off their spot. I wouldn't call them scramblers necessarily, but they're agile enough and athletic enough to move and create passing lanes to extend the play. I think the difference that we're going to see is Zach Wilson was a 3-year starter. Trey Lance was a 1-year starter at North Dakota State. So he's played 17 games, whereas Zach's played, I want to say 33. I think the big key will be Zach Wilson has a style of play where I call them YOLO balls, where he'll drift, he'll extend the play, and then he'll chuck the ball down the field and be like, my dude is coming down with this football. That works for him. But does that translate to the next level? Whereas Trey Lance, 16 games in 2019, did not turn the ball over. He did not throw an interception in 2019. Now, it is a very run-heavy scheme at North Dakota State. It's very pro-style, but still, he's a conservative passer. You don't see that very often for a redshirt freshman, by the way, to be given the keys to say you can make checks at the line, you can audible, and just go out there and play football, and he didn't throw an interception. So I think with Zach Wilson, it's more of that gunslinger mentality of I'm a playmaker. And I'm the best player on the field every time I'm out here in the Mountain West, and I am going to make plays. With Trey Lance, it's more of, I think it is a little bit more, schematic in terms of, yes, he can move. He's 6'3", 225. He's a very good runner. He's very powerful, but he plays within the framework of his offense a little bit better. So I actually think Trey Lance is a little more NFL ready than Zach Wilson would be because of the concepts, because he was asked to play within the framework of the offense, whereas Zach, it was more like, okay, man, like we don't have a lot going on here. Just go play almost backyard football. So I think that's probably the biggest difference I see right now.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.